The wind cut through his skin like a blade. He didn't stop. At 14,700 feet, where the average person's lungs would give out, where every breath turns to white smoke instantly swallowed by the storm, Qhapaq's feet kept striking the stone ground in a rhythm that never changed. On his back, a quipu, a knotted cord carrying a message from the edge of the world. Ahead, a suspension bridge stretching dozens of meters across a 1,000-foot gorge, woven from grass. Just grass. He didn't hesitate, didn't slow down. His feet knew every sway of that bridge, the way they knew his own heartbeat. That message would reach Cusco in less than a week, covering a distance that today you'd only cut with a flight. 3 hours in the air, a warm cup of coffee in your hand. And here's what I haven't been able to stop thinking about since I first stood on the remains of this road. The empire that produced those runners had no wheel, no horses, not a single written letter. And yet, they built a road network stretching 25,000 miles. The circumference of the Earth, if you're wondering, is 24,901 miles. The difference? About 100 miles. Practically nothing. This road cut through tunnels carved directly into mountain walls. It climbed stone staircases, clinging to vertical cliffs. The kind of place where if you stood there today, your hands would instinctively reach for something to grab. It crossed gorges on bridges that, 500 years later, are still strong enough to walk across. This isn't just a question about how they built it. The real question, the one we're going to answer together by the end of this journey, is how did something this impossible not just stand, but work perfectly? Before you can truly understand what they built, you first need to understand where they built it. To the west, the Atacama Desert. Land so dry, so ancient that NASA sends scientists there to train for walking on Mars. 0 millimeters of rain per year. Not a little rain. 0. The rocks there have never felt moisture. The wind blows like sandpaper on your face, carrying dust that's been stored for thousands of years. Move to the center, the Andes Mountains. Here, the earth itself can't stay still. Earthquakes come without warning, landslides drop without notice. Temperatures can fall 54 degrees overnight. The air is too thin to breathe comfortably. Every step upward is a negotiation between willpower and lung capacity. And to the east, the Amazon rainforest. The Incas themselves called it Rupa Rupa, the scorching land. A different world. A world that even they, the conquerors of mountains, were reluctant to enter. This was the stage where they worked. Now, erase every image you have of draft horses and pack animals. In the Americas, before Columbus arrived, there were none of them. No wheeled carts, no machinery, only human hands, human backs, and the occasional llama that couldn't even be loaded with more than 90 pounds. Less than 2% of all land across the Andes was fit for farming, which means logistics alone, just making sure workers had food to eat, was already its own miracle, even before a single stone was laid. And then consider this. Rome, with all its engineering power, thousands of slaves and flat roads across Europe, took 700 years to build 53,000 miles of road. The Incas built 25,000 miles across far more brutal terrain in under 100 years. That number makes no sense. And it's not supposed to. We've always called it a road, but that word is too small. Two main arteries split this continent from north to south, one hugging the coastline, one climbing the spine of the Andes to elevations where ordinary lungs give out. On vertical cliffs, the width narrows to 3 feet, just enough for one human body and one load on its back. On flat terrain, it opens up to 50 feet, as wide as a modern city boulevard. Beneath the surface, something invisible is at work. Drainage channels operating in silence, flushing rainwater before the earth has time to collapse. Stone retaining walls that have held back gravity for centuries. Stairways carved directly into mountain faces. And bridges, not of steel, not of timber, but of plant fibers twisted by hand, stretched across gorges deep enough to swallow the sound of a scream. One bridge still stands. Qhapaq, the only survivor. Every 12 kilometers, a stone marker stands, called a topu. Not decoration. It was an analog GPS, a navigation system with no satellites, no signal, no battery to die. But a road without a support system is just rock, lying on the ground. What made Qhapaq Nan breathe was everything that grew along it. Every 12 to 18 miles, a tambo stood, a way station, not just somewhere for soldiers to drop their packs and stretch their backs. It was a logistics hub, a warehouse, a field clinic, a military coordination point. The state was physically present here, in the middle of jungle at altitude, in places where, without the empire, no one would have ever built anything. On the high mountain slopes stood kolkta, natural cold storage warehouses. No refrigeration machines, just elevation and wind. By harnessing the freezing mountain temperatures, meat, potatoes, and food supplies were preserved using natural freeze-drying. Stockpiles sufficient for 2, 3, even 7 years ahead. Emergency reserves for war, for disaster, for a famine that hadn't happened yet. And then, the chasqui. Relay runners stationed at small posts along the road, waiting in silence, always ready. When a runner arrived with a message, no pause, no rest. The next runner immediately took off. The message moved like fire along a fuse. From Quito to Cusco, 1,250 miles, 5 days. In the same century, the European Royal Mail Service took weeks to travel shorter distances. But this isn't even the part that keeps me up at night. This road wasn't just infrastructure. It was the physical body of the empire. A vein carrying power from its heart in Cusco to its fingertips at the edges of the continent. From Coricancha, the Temple of the Sun at the center of Cusco, radiated 41 invisible lines called seque, sacred lines connecting hundreds of sacred sites across the entire territory. And some of them, not by coincidence, align precisely with the main road routes. Which means this road wasn't built only following the contours of the land. It was built following something else. And the question that no one has been able to definitively answer to this day: did the orientation of these roads also function as an astronomical calendar? A cosmic clock carved into the surface of the Earth? We don't know. Yet. But we do know one thing. The people who built this weren't just building a road. They were writing something on the earth, in stone, for the sky. For centuries, the world reached for the easiest answer. Slaves, whips, force. But the evidence tells a different story, and a far more surprising one. The people who built Machu Picchu weren't prisoners. They were taxpayers, in a system called mita, not a tax paid in money, not a tax paid in crops, a tax paid in body, in time, in labor. And in return, the state fed them, clothed them, gave them shelter. This wasn't slavery. It was a social contract, more complex than anything we typically imagine. Every man who lifted a stone on the slopes of the Andes didn't see himself as a victim. He saw himself as part of something bigger than himself. Even the pyramids of Giza, which we've long pictured as built under the crack of a whip, were actually built on a similar logic. Workers who were paid. Workers who went home to their families. Loyalty, it turns out, is far more powerful than fear. There was no iron in their hands, no wheels beneath those stones. What they had, geometry, geological knowledge passed down through generations, and thousands of human bodies moving in one rhythm. To bridge the steep gorges of the Andes, they didn't build from iron or hardwood. They took grass. Ichu, the dry mountain grass we step on without a second glance. Its fibers were twisted, layered, twisted again, until they formed cables as thick as an adult's arm, 2 feet in diameter, strong enough to hold thousands of tons. And these bridges aren't museum artifacts. In Huinchiri, a community still rebuilds one every year, by hand, through ritual, through body memory passed down from ancestors. A tradition that may be older than any nation currently claiming the land beneath it. Imagine building all of that at 13,000 feet, where every breath feels like inhaling air that's been half stolen by the sky. So how was all of this managed? 25,000 miles of road, tens of thousands of workers, thousands of tons of materials. Logistics that even today would give the world's best project managers cold sweats. All of it managed without a single written word. All they had were cords, quipu, bundles of colorful knots hanging like braided hair, how many workers were needed, at which points they were stationed, when they needed to move, what they were carrying. Everything stored in a language of knots that we still haven't fully decoded to this day. We, who have computers, satellites, and artificial intelligence, still can't fully read the administrative records of a civilization that worked with fingers and rope. So the question is no longer, how did they manage to build it? The more honest question is, why did it take us so long to stop underestimating them? Before a single Spanish soldier set foot on Inca soil, before iron met bone, before the first cannon blast echoed between the stone walls of Cusco, this empire was already dying. A disease with no name, a disease from a world they didn't know existed. Smallpox spread faster than news. It crept silently, body to body, city to city, through the Qhapaq Nan, the same road that carried corn, wool, and the emperor's commands, now carried death at a speed its builders could never have imagined. Emperor Qhapaq collapsed. He never saw a single European in his lifetime. He was killed by their shadow. The road, designed to spread power, became the very vein that carried its destruction. Then came Pizarro. 168 men. That was the count. 168 soldiers, against an empire of 18 million people stretching the length of the Andes. How was that even possible? Because they didn't need to blaze a trail. The trail was already there. Already graded, already paved, already marked. The Spanish forces moved through the heart of the empire using infrastructure built by their very enemy. Every step of Pizarro's horse landed on stone carved by Inca hands. Without Qhapaq Nan, Spain would never have pierced the Andes. The largest empire in the New World, brought down by its own road. And now, here's the part that hits hardest. The Inca Empire has long since fallen. 500 years have passed. Cusco changed its name, its rulers, the language spoken in its halls of power. But Qhapaq Nan, it's still there. Today, across 6 countries that were once the body of one empire, indigenous communities still walk on the same stones, still maintain them, still know them by the same name. New hands patch the cracks opened by time, exactly as their ancestors did centuries before. The road survived. The empire didn't. If a civilization is destroyed, but its legacy is still being walked by millions of people, did it really fall? Rome built for eternity, and what remains are ruins. The Incas built for life, and what remains is a road that human feet still walk today. 7,500 miles, 6 countries, one system of veins that even after 5 centuries of colonialism, earthquakes, and historical amnesia, still refuses to die. UNESCO recognized that. In 2014, Qhapaq Nan was officially designated a World Heritage Site, not as a monument to the past, but as living proof that there was a civilization that once understood something we've forgotten. That true infrastructure isn't concrete and steel. It's collective memory passed down through hands. And there's no stronger evidence than this. In the Apurimac Valley, every year, Quechua communities gather. Their hands twist ichu, the same mountain grass their ancestors used. The Quechua Bridge, rewoven. Not for tourists, not for cameras, but because that's what they've always done. 500 years without interruption. A ritual older than any nation currently claiming the land beneath it. When the final weave is tightened and the bridge stretches once again across the gorge, the Andean wind sets it swaying gently. The rough texture of its fibers bites into your palms. Below, the river roars. And I stood there thinking, who really left a greater legacy? Those who built to be immortalized in stone? Or those who built something that keeps living, keeps being touched, keeps being needed? That question I'm throwing to you, from the llama hitching posts in Cusco to the relay stations at lung-freezing summits. Which part do you think deserves its own video? Drop it in the comments. Your answers will determine where our feet go next on this road that never truly ends. Don't forget to subscribe and hit the notification bell